Have you ever experienced this moment? You feel prepared. You know the material. You've practiced the words in your head. And then, someone starts watching. A teacher, an interviewer, an audience, a camera. Suddenly, your thoughts scatter. Your words come out wrong. Your body tightens. It feels as if your intelligence has vanished. But here's the strange part. Nothing about you actually changed. You didn't lose knowledge. You didn't lose skill. You didn't suddenly become worse. Your brain simply switched modes. We grow up believing that pressure improves performance. Deadlines are meant to sharpen focus. Exams are meant to reveal true ability. Being observed is supposed to make us try harder. And sometimes, that idea feels true. A little pressure can create urgency. It can push us to act. But if pressure truly made people better, then failure under pressure wouldn't be so common. Yet it is. Students freeze during exams they studied weeks for. Athletes miss shots they've made thousands of times. Speakers forget simple sentences the moment they step on stage. This isn't rare. It's predictable. And that's what makes it unsettling. In controlled experiments, researchers repeatedly observe the same pattern. Participants perform tasks smoothly during practice. Their movements are fluid. Their responses are accurate. Then researchers introduce one small change. They tell participants their performance will be evaluated, sometimes by experts, sometimes by peers, sometimes by a camera. Nothing else changes. The task remains identical. The environment remains identical. The participants remain identical. And yet, performance drops. Not slightly, dramatically. So what's going on? Why does being judged have such a powerful effect on the human brain? That question leads us to something deeply uncomfortable, because it suggests that failure under pressure is not a personal weakness. It's not a lack of confidence. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not a lack of talent. It's a feature of how the brain works. And to understand it, we have to look at what judgment does to your attention. To understand why judgment is so disruptive, we have to talk about attention. Because attention is one of the brain's most limited resources. When you are relaxed, your attention flows outward. It attaches itself to the task, to the problem in front of you, to the movement you're making, to the words you're trying to say. In this state, your actions feel smooth, effortless, almost automatic. You are not thinking about yourself. And that is exactly why things work. But the moment you realize you're being judged, attention shifts. It pulls away from the task and turns inward. You begin to observe yourself. How do I sound right now? Did that sentence make sense? Are they noticing my mistake? What do they think of me? This process is called self-monitoring, and it feels useful. It feels like you're being careful. But neurologically, it's a disaster. Self-monitoring divides attention. Part of your brain is trying to perform the task. Another part is watching and evaluating and correcting. The same mental resource is now doing two jobs at once. And attention doesn't split cleanly. It degrades. Imagine trying to drive while constantly watching yourself in the mirror. Not the road, not the traffic, just you. Every small movement becomes awkward. Every decision feels delayed. That's what judgment does to attention. This is why performance often collapses suddenly. Not gradually, not smoothly. One moment you're fine, the next, everything feels heavy. It's not because the task became harder. It's because your attention stopped being stable. Researchers have tested this repeatedly. When people are distracted externally, performance drops a little. But when attention turns inward, performance drops much more, especially for complex tasks. Speaking, problem solving, creative thinking, precision movement, anything that depends on flow. And here's the most important part. The more you care about the outcome, the stronger this inward pull becomes. Because judgment threatens something deeper than performance. It threatens identity. When you feel judged, you're no longer just doing a task. You're defending an image, your intelligence, your competence, your value. So attention stays locked on the self, and the task is left with whatever mental resources remain, which is usually not enough. This is why telling yourself to focus harder rarely works. You're already focusing, just on the wrong thing. And until the brain feels safe enough to release attention back to the task, performance cannot recover. This brings us to the next layer of the problem. Because attention collapse is only the beginning. Under pressure, the brain doesn't just redirect attention. It changes how control itself works. And that's where things really start to break down. When attention turns inward, the brain does something else as well. It tries to take control. Under normal conditions, most skilled actions run automatically. You do not consciously think about how to move your fingers while typing. You do not plan each word while speaking. You do not calculate every movement in sports or music. These skills are stored in neural systems that operate outside conscious awareness. They are fast, efficient, and remarkably accurate. This is why practice works. Under pressure, however, the brain stops trusting these automatic systems. It pulls control into the prefrontal cortex. This region is responsible for planning, analysis, and conscious monitoring. It is excellent at solving new problems, but it is not designed to manage real-time execution under stress. When the prefrontal cortex takes over, performance slows down, movements become stiff, speech becomes hesitant, timing collapses. The brain begins to micromanage actions that were never meant to be controlled. This is the core mechanism behind what psychologists call choking under pressure. In laboratory studies, highly skilled performers are often the most affected. Experts in music, sports, and academics perform worse than novices when placed under evaluation, not because they know less, but because their skills are more automatic, and automatic systems are fragile. When conscious control interferes, think of it like this. Imagine walking. Now imagine consciously controlling every muscle involved in walking. Each step would feel unnatural, slow, unstable. That is what pressure does to complex skills. It forces conscious control where none is needed. This effect becomes stronger when the stakes are high. The more important the outcome feels, the more the brain tries to control it. Mistakes feel dangerous. Failure feels costly. So the brain tightens its grip. And paradoxically, that grip causes the failure it is trying to prevent. This explains why trying harder often makes things worse. Effort is not the problem. Control is. Under pressure, the brain applies the wrong kind of control at the wrong time. And once this process begins, it feeds on itself. A small mistake increases monitoring. Monitoring increases control. Control increases error. The downward spiral is fast. At this point, performance is no longer the brain's priority. Something more primitive has taken over. Because beneath all of this, there is an even deeper system at work, one that evolved long before exams, presentations, or social evaluation. And to understand the full picture, we have to look at how the brain responds to threat. At a certain point, pressure stops being psychological. It becomes biological. Because when the brain detects judgment, it does not treat it as feedback. It treats it as threat. Deep inside the brain, the amygdala activates. This structure evolved to detect danger, not social discomfort, not embarrassment. Danger. Once it activates, the brain releases stress hormones. Cortisol increases. Adrenaline rises. Heart rate goes up. Breathing becomes shallow. Muscles tense. At the same time, working memory capacity drops. This is critical because working memory is where complex thinking happens. Reasoning, problem solving, language construction. Under threat, the brain deliberately reduces these functions. Not because it is broken, but because survival demands speed, not precision. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. For most of human history, being watched meant danger. Evaluation meant exclusion. Rejection meant vulnerability. The brain learned one rule. When judgment appears, prepare to defend. So when you feel pressure today, your brain is not reacting to a presentation. It is reacting to a perceived threat, to safety and belonging. This leads to a powerful realization. Pressure does not destroy performance. The brain does, but not by accident. It does so intentionally. It sacrifices performance to protect you. This is the moment. Most people misunderstand themselves. They assume they are weak. They assume they lack confidence. They assume something is wrong with them. But the opposite is true. Their brain is working exactly as designed, just not for modern situations. Here is the critical insight. Pressure harms performance only when the brain interprets judgment as threat. Change that interpretation, and the system responds differently. This is the real solution. Not motivation, not positive thinking, reinterpretation. When attention stays external, automatic systems remain active. When control is released, skill flows. When judgment feels familiar, the amygdala stays quiet. This is why exposure works. Practicing under observation teaches the brain safety. This is why reframing works. Curiosity signals learning. Threat signals danger. Same situation, different meaning, different biology. This also explains something subtle. Pressure does not affect everyone equally. People who care deeply are often affected more because the stakes feel higher. Identity is involved, and identity activates threat faster than skill. So the next time your mind freezes, when all eyes are on you, remember this. You did not lose intelligence. You did not forget your ability. Your brain simply changed priorities. From performance to protection. The real question is not how to eliminate pressure. Pressure is unavoidable. The real question is this: can you teach your brain that being watched is not a threat? Because the moment it learns that, performance returns, not through force, but through safety